Right. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Tania Verdonk, and I'm going to talk to you about spending half my life in South Africa and half in the UK. I was born in on the 25th of June 1979 in Pretoria, South Africa. I lived in the same house, this house currently in the picture, from when I was 10 months old until I turned 18. My dad actually built that house as well, and we recently sold it. But yeah, so that is where I grew up. So I spent my teenage years in the 90s. Now, the 90s was arguably the most exciting time in South Africa and to be South African. We'd seen the end of apartheid. We had Nelson Mandela released from prison. We had our first free and fair general elections. We had a new flag. We had a new anthem. The Rainbow Nation was born. Oh, and we won the 1995 World Cup Rugby. And if you've not seen the movie Invictus, I would urge you to have a little look, because actually that what it does do is it captures the atmosphere of South Africa in the 90s really well. As someone who's actually been there, and I can say it compares really well. Now, the other thing that all of those things happening did was that it opened up the world to South Africans again. And so I had a plan. So I was going to finish school, go study something, and then travel the world and work in amazing places, and see the world. That's the adventure is going to start. And then maybe when I was about 30, I was probably back in South Africa, and that was the plan. So in 2000, when I was 21, completely by accident, amongst thousands of people, um, I met a Dutchman living in Cambridge on the internet. My first email address as well, that's how long ago it was. Um, and I'm telling you this because I was in Cape Town at that stage, and my adventure had kind of started without me kind of realizing. But it still fitted in with the plan. And the plan was, he's just my boyfriend. I'm going traveling. He's living in Cambridge. That's all good. Um, and so it kind of made it easy for me because I didn't think of myself really as immigrating ever. Um, and then going on, we got married in 2002. Oh, let me just, sorry, I've got to just see if I can. There we go. And if you get married to a Dutchman living in Cambridge, you get married 3 times to the same man, and that's enough now as well. Um, but yeah, I mean, my first kind of experiences in the UK, coming over here, some amusing incidents, was probably in the supermarket checkout when I realized I'm not in South Africa. I had this quite young boy checking out, scanning through my grocery items, and he was very young, and I was saying to him, how was your day? What have you been doing? All, what time are you finishing your shift? And making lots of small talk, and I was getting very restrained responses back, and then quite some strange looks as well. And then I kind of, it dawned on me, oh, we don't tend to make as much small talk in Britain by the supermarket checkout as we do in South Africa. So that was one of those incidences. And then another time was at a Cambridge college. One of our friends was a fellow at one of the colleges in Cambridge, and we got invited to high table. And I was sitting next to another fellow, and I introduced myself, my maiden name, Tania Verdonk. And he thought I said, I'm Tania the Vet. And it was one of those occasions where I thought, shall I explain this? Or shall I just let it go, let it ride, see where this takes me? Because and I thought, no, I thought better of it. I said, no, I'm going to say to him, no, it's my maiden name. You pronounce it Devet, but you spell it W-E-T. And I'm so glad I did, because it turns out, of course, that he was the head of the veterinary department, and must have thought that I was somehow strategically placed next to him, because I am too a vet, and obviously I couldn't have been able to engage in any of those conversations. So that was good. Other things that I learned is that it took me years to understand what tea means. So if someone says they're coming for tea, are they coming for an early dinner, or are they actually coming for a cup of tea? And that was literally in. And also, if I'm inviting someone over for tea, what am I inviting them for tea for? That was difficult. And of course, nobody needs to know what color pants you're wearing ever. Um, and the South Africanisms as well. And South Africa, we have just now and now as just a very unspecific time in the future. And apparently, Brits don't find that very useful when you're referring to an event that's going to take place. So that was definitely things that kind of opened my eyes in the very beginning. The first 10 years here, I had to explain that I felt, because of my heritage, I needed to say why I'm here. I'm here for love. Love took me on this adventure, and that's why I'm here. It's not because I didn't agree with the politics in South Africa. I kind of felt like I didn't want to I needed to wear the badge, hi, I'm Tanya, I'm here for love. I'm not a racist. That's kind of how it felt for me the first 10 years. The next 10 years after that, I still felt I needed to say, I'm here for love still, and I'm settled here. I've not fallen victim to a terrible crime or anything like that. And there are lots of South Africans here in the UK, and they all have their own stories. So I don't want to make light of any of those, anybody's story, but I didn't want the press to have, take over my narrative of why I was here. What living in two different places, because even though I lived here and I have lived here for the last 3 years, I've been able to go back to South Africa every year because all my family is still there. But what it does, it enables you to see, put things in from a different perspective. So obviously, as a South African here, I found, as someone who loves people, I found it really, the first 6 months I found extremely hard to make friends. In South Africa, we've got such a welcoming culture, and I think it's probably because we've got so many different cultures. People always will want to feel my way into marketing, because that kind of being able to build quick relationships and that uncomfortable, feeling of not connecting, I think I want to always try and facilitate that for people. In 2011, I got my British passport. There we go. Look at me. I am a British citizen. And for all of you who've been lucky enough to been born with your lovely British passports, you have no idea how lucky you are. The queues, the Schengen visa queues, the queues to visas to the rest of the world, the expense that goes around with that, you have no idea. I remember in the beginning, my mother-in-law was sent me like a little collapsible stool, like one of those that you just fold up, because that meant that when Marcel dropped me off at 5 o'clock in the morning in front of the Dutch embassy in Kensington, I didn't have to stand for the whole 4 hours until they actually open. Come rain or shine, no cover, I could at least sit on this little collapsible stool. So I look back with that as certainly some of life's challenges, and being very cold. But yeah, so I am a British citizen. Now, I know you're not supposed to do that, but if I'm going to be pushed for my absolute favorite year, because you're not supposed to do that, because the only time we have is now, and all time is precious, and this is actually the only thing that's real. But if I'm going to be pushed, I'm going to say 2012 was my absolute favorite year to be here. It was just that a few things kind of came together for me. I was studying a human resources degree through the University of South Africa. I sat my exams in London, and I did that over years because obviously I started my degree, then had a young family, and I had a business I was running. and I was doing these exams in London. So 2012 saw the end of the studying for this degree. And of course, also it had the amazing summer of Olympics, and followed by the Paralympics. And it was just so incredible. And I was so proud of, my adopted country and, being British. And it was such a spectacular show, and everybody was so welcoming, and it was so diverse and multicultural, and London was so friendly, and it was incredible. And of course, in the house we have British, South African, and Dutch. So we had lots of athletes to support, and every single event that we went to was just absolutely amazing. And particularly touched actually by the Paralympics and what that how that opened the world's eyes. So yeah, absolutely loved 2012. And then I'm going to fast forward to 2016. At the 23rd of June 2016, I was in South Africa just before the EU referendum, but I made sure that I'm back for the referendum, because as I'm an avid voter, I completely believe in voting. On our first free and fair elections in 1994, I was 15, so I couldn't vote, but it made such an impression on me, seeing all those long snaking queues that went on for kilometers and kilometers, and hearing people's stories and their tears of joy at being able to vote for the very first time. So it made such an impression on me that I take my right to vote very, very seriously. And I vote in the South African general election, I vote in the British general election, I vote in all the local elections, and even the mayoral elections. I vote in them all. So I made sure that I was back in time to go cast my vote. And I love doing it in person, actually. And I'm going to skip forward a little bit because I don't want to be accused of bemoaning. But I was absolutely devastated at the outcome of the Brexit referendum. I just couldn't believe how 4 years before, this incredible, multicultural, diverse, forward-thinking country that made me feel so welcome, and I was so proud of being part of it and being part of, contributing, suddenly made 3/4 of my household, because my children have Dutch passports and Marcel's got a Dutch passport, so unwelcome. And he's been living here as a scientist since 1996. I've been having my business, and at that time I was employing people as well. So I really felt that we were contributing to this country. And the other thing that it taught me is I just absolutely did not see it coming, and it was a big lesson for me, because it taught me that even though I didn't realize I was doing it, I was surrounding myself with like-minded people, because I didn't know anybody who would vote for Brexit. I just honestly, I was looking outside the next day and I just couldn't see it. And there's a big marketing and a business lesson to learn in that as well. When you're looking at a cross section of data, make sure you're not just including a small section of people that think like you. So yes, so that was 2016, but that's go, we move on. I then realized, probably about 9 years into my journey, actually, I finally clicked that I probably did immigrate. And then I suddenly had two fears. I had two fears that this suddenly realization that I've now actually immigrated, that what if something happened to my parents and I'm so far away and I can't get there in time, and how would I manage that with a young family and all of that. And my second fear was completely irrational, but it was a fear nevertheless. What if something happened that prevented me from traveling to South Africa? What if, because I was able to just hop on a plane in the evening, I'm in Johannesburg in the morning. That's how easy it actually was. So 2018 brought with it, my dad was ill he got diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. And I don't know how it worked out, but it did work out somehow. I was actually able to spend quite a lot of time with him at that time. Even though the kids were young, even though they were at school, even though I had work, I was able to spend quite a lot of time with him, and at times when it really mattered. And then on the 11th of July 2018, when he passed away, I was actually sitting there next to his bed, holding his hand. That is not that picture. Don't be too. That's not that picture. That was just me on my birthday holding his hand. But I was there, and it kind of taught me that actually you can think about these things, but when it happens, and overthinking it is actually not making it easier. And of course, then enrolled 2019 with, or 2020 with COVID-19. And fear number two was realized that I can't just hop on a plane and go to South Africa. Now, I obviously thought that it was going to be a alien invasion or a nuclear war, or some big no-fly zone, World War III or something, like that. That was going to prevent me. I did not see the pandemic actually being that thing that actually stopped flights. And even now, I'm obviously keeping a close eye on things. We haven't seen my in-laws for a year and a half. And I did have the opportunity to go see my mum in November last year, all completely within the rules. And I wouldn't have gone if I didn't have to renew my South African passport. So sometimes all of these little things happen, and it's almost like they conspire for you to be able to do what you need to do at that time. It is a bit strange, but I had to go renew my South African passport because it's impossible to do that in the UK. And I went to go see my mum. I did come back, and just after I came back, it was announced about the South African variant, and I felt again that I needed to wear a big badge that said, "Hi, I'm Tanya. I went to South Africa in November. I didn't bring back the variant. I did quarantine." All of those things, and so I think that we're going to see a lot more of those kind of situations happening. I'm going to end with some things that I still do after 20 years of living here. I still leave the house without a coat on if the sun shines, and that could actually be in the middle of the winter. If the sun shines in my head, that's warm, and I will leave the house without a coat on. And about 15 minutes, I would realize that was a big mistake. I shouldn't have done that. I will still occasionally wear a coat indoors. In South Africa, our houses are designed to keep cool, and we don't have central heating. And so it's very common to just have your coat on indoors. And I didn't realize how rude actually this is. But so, and certainly when my family comes to visit, oh my, they will definitely just keep their coats on indoors. And no, you shouldn't be taking offense to that. I will probably still try to feed people if they're just here with whatever I have in the cupboard. That's a very South African thing to do, to just make something out of whatever you have there. We celebrate Heritage Day in South Africa, which is a celebration of all the different cultures in the country. And one of my absolute favorite people, Desmond Tutu, coined it Braai Day. So our love for the braai, and that's the next thing I would say still do. We do braai a lot more than the average Brit. I can show you. This was Marcel's lockdown project, was to build a braai, and our love for barbecued meat is a thing that's very South African. But we do move with the times, because there is such a thing as a vegetarian barbecue. You can do it. You'll still get some funny looks, obviously, in South Africa, but it is possible. It is possible, definitely. And the other thing I would absolutely never do is ask someone to take their shoes off when they come to visit me at home. That is like one of the most un-South African things I think you can possibly do. So in South Africa, obviously, you'd have the other problem. You would have, instead of muddy feet, you might have smelly feet. And so, we have hardwood floors, and that takes care of that conflict. So, that's what we would do. And yes, that is me. And thank you for listening to my ramblings. I hope you've been able to learn a little bit about my two homes, both of their beauty and their difficulties in their own way. So thank you very much.